Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Tom Friedman is one of the world's best known columnists, authors. He writes about international affairs, also American domestic politics, but also he picks up global trends very early. And usually you will find that he will come up with a book and that will set the trend for quite some time and becomes a debating point. Now he is facing the same question all the time now, which is, can you still say the world is flat? That's because coronavirus is now shown that every country is now sequestered within itself. Countries are raising borders, people are not traveling, people are working from home, forget traveling overseas and working from overseas. People are looking at shifting supply chains within their own countries. So does it mean globalization is finished? And would he still call the world a flat entity? Now, this is a larger debate. So Tom Friedman and I had a conversation on our Off the Cuff. In fact, I'm giving you a link of the full conversation with today's description. Please see that. This is 45 minutes of pure knowledge, gyan. You can agree, you can disagree. That is the life of every columnist. With me also, a lot of people agree, but a lot of people strongly disagree. But the life of a columnist, of an opinion writer, or anybody in public debate is to provoke debate. And if everybody agrees with you, then you are maybe you are indulging in motherhood and apple pie kind of stuff. Mera desh mahan hai, nobody can disagree with you. I love my tricolor, nobody can disagree with you. I love my national anthem, nobody will disagree with you. So that is not the life of a columnist or an opinionator. So Tom Friedman is one of the most discussed and one of the most disagreed with columnists in the world. I also count him as a friend for a very long time. I learn a lot from him. We discuss a lot of things when we meet, and I have to also say that he, at a time when I was figuring out what kind of new organization to set up or to set one up or not, he is among the people that I reached out to. So if the print today, a few months before its third anniversary, is doing so well, thanks to all of you, inspiration also came from Tom Friedman. So I had this conversation with him and we talked about many things. First of all, of course, he said that the world is even flatter than before and COVID proves that. And he says that you will now see that globalization will get a second life because countries are having to talk to each other. Science has now become so important in our lives, and there is nothing more global in the world, not even financial flows. There is nothing more global in the world than science. And also you will see a new birth of globalization, a new life of globalization, but you might see changes in the shape of this globe. Post-COVID, global balance of power will change. And that's when we come to a question which is topmost on our minds in India: what happens to China? Because many people believe, and I believe too, I've written this, that after this there will be a global pushback on China. Because the world by and large is very dissatisfied with the way China has handled the corona crisis. China has been less than transparent. China has been, in fact, almost criminally opaque on this. They took too long warning the world. So even WHO, over which now it's widely believed, WHO will deny it, but it's widely believed that China exercises undue influence. Even they tweeted on as far back as 14th of January, or as late in this crisis as 14th of January, that there was no evidence of human-to-human transmission of this virus. That made the whole world apparently a little more complacent. And then later also there were statements from WHO praising China. So there's a general feeling that China misused its power, misused its global clout, and the strength that it had, the advantage that it had because of the closeness of its system. Because in China, nobody can question the state. And Mike Pompeo spoke about it. He spoke about how the Chinese turned out foreign press, how the Chinese shut up and sidelined some of their dissidents who were whistleblowers or who raised questions about it. In fact, some people disappeared in the sense that they've not been seen or heard in public since then. There is a general belief in the world, and we've talked about this in the past, America, Britain, Germany, France, they've all spoken about it at some level. Donald Trump does it most of all. Other tension with China is now the factory of the world. So people suddenly realized that all their supply chains were linked to some factories in China. So if China was hit by a virus like this, and if China got paralyzed, what will happen to them? So everybody started thinking, do I need to shift my assembly lines? And that's what India started thinking also. So you've seen a lot of debate and discussion in the Indian media, in the Indian commentariat, that this is India's opportunity. All these factories will be shifting out of China. So compete with Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand, which are getting some of these assembly lines to shift, and get them to come to India. Now, that's where I raised that question with Tom Friedman, and he says that it might be premature to declare victory there. And why does he say so? He says, think about it. All of your countries means he includes America in it, are still dealing with this crisis. All of Europe is still dealing with the crisis. But the Chinese seem to be out of it already. In fact, he says, the Chinese are going back to Disney World. In fact, as we were conversing on Monday, this week, the Chinese had already reopened the Disney World at Shanghai, and tourists and Chinese themselves mostly were going in with masks and sanitizer. So here is a country which first got hit by the virus in a big way, looked like will be paralyzed, but it's the first country now to look like it's back to normal fully. So Tom Friedman said, be cautious before you declare victory, because you might get some of these assembly lines to shift from China to India, but you have to start working on that right now and work very hard. Don't presume anything, because he said the Chinese have already been able to work through the pandemic, and because the Chinese have done it, other countries might actually become more dependent on China, he says, because 6 months from now, to use his words, if America and India are still roiled up in this crisis, whereas the Chinese have resumed all their production, Chinese have resumed going to Disney World now. That's a metaphor for a big turnaround in China. Then how are you going to compete with China unless you get your act together? So don't presume that you are winning this war or this competition with China just because the virus started in China. He says, in fact, that in the course of time, it's possible that the opposite will happen. The global companies will think that, look, even if there's a pandemic of this dimensions, it's the Chinese who get their act together the fastest. So maybe we are safer working with China or into China than shifting anything outside China. And so he says, be careful. Don't jump to the conclusion that China is now finished or China is on the decline and it is America's moment or India's moment. It will take some doing. It will not automatically come to you. And the Chinese are not about to roll over and decline. So that is one big warning, and that reminds me, there was a conversation I had in about 2004 on Walk the Talk with Vishwanathan Anand when he had won big championships and become the world champion. And that is when, if you remember, the Vajpayee government was promoting India shining, etc., saying India is now growing, India is now the flavor of the world. And he said something in that Walk the Talk. You should check it out on NDTV's website. He said, we Indians have a weakness. And what is the weakness? We declare victory too soon. So are we declaring victory too soon? That's the warning from Tom Friedman, that don't do it. It is not worth it because Chinese, as we said, are not being complacent. So one more example, and I will quote Montek Singh Ahluwalia. Enough time has now passed, so he will not mind my sharing this conversation with you. He said to me a long time back in a conversation, when people again started celebrating something, India with 3 years of growth, 2007, 8, around that time, just before the financial crisis. And he said, you see a cricket match. In a cricket match, somebody scores 100. So everybody celebrates. Somebody takes 6 wickets. So everybody celebrates. But as somebody scores 100 or somebody takes 6 wickets, then you find often that some spectators come running onto the field to congratulate the cricketer who might have done it, and in the hope that cameras will catch them, or out of over enthusiasm or whatever. So they may not be playing, they are not playing, but they also declare victory and they think we have done it. So he said we Indians are sometimes like that. So we have to be careful. I think on this China, and India will now grab all this business coming out of China, to make the presumption that China is losing all this, and to make the presumption that all of this is coming to India is quite fallacious and quite hasty. So good note of caution. Now a couple more things. A very perceptive watcher, that is John Elliott, who used to be the Financial Times bureau chief in Delhi and now runs a blog. He asked a question, a trick question, and he said, Donald Trump, Xi Jinping, Donald Trump, Boris Johnson and Narendra Modi, list one thing that they have done on the positive side on coronavirus. So that's a trick thing, one thing on the positive side. So Tom Friedman said, Xi Jinping, initially he missed the coronavirus and he did not see how serious this was going to be. So he looked like he missed the bus then, but he got his act together quickly after that. And then he used all the methods that are available to him in China, that obviously are not available in democracies, to get over the virus crisis. So that is the good thing he has done. He's got China back in order. Second, Donald Trump, I think he's had to try very hard. And then he said, Donald Trump, the one good thing he did was that he stopped flights from China early on. But then he says, while he may have stopped people, the Chinese coming from China, there were lots of Americans who'd been to China. So that's the whole question that is now going on in America, that they stopped flights from China, but not from Europe. So people from China brought the virus to Europe, and from there it came to America. But he said, yes, Donald Trump, one positive thing he did was to stop these flights from China very early when he faced criticism for doing that. Boris Johnson, I think he tried a bit harder, but he said that Boris Johnson was going the way of Sweden, which is building herd immunity, and then lost his nerve once he got that Imperial College study. Remember, we spoke about it on a Kartak letter a few weeks back, which predicted that unless you try and contain this virus through lockdowns, etc., millions of people will die. And looks like he also got bamboozled by that and lost his nerve, but after that has come to grips with the situation faster than you would have expected. And Narendra Modi, that is something, he said stuff that will make Modi supporters very, very happy. And he said Narendra Modi has been very quick with the national lockdown, very decisive, and he said, his words, that Narendra Modi actually gets a very decent grade for the way he responded to the virus. Then he goes on to say, seems to me that Modi has been more effective than not. And he said, and the virus has not spread as much in India at the speed, scope and scale as I would have expected. And then he said it could be because of epidemiological reasons, it may be because of the weather, it may be because of the geography, which latitude is India located on. He said, I don't know, but the fact is that in a country like India with so much poverty, such density of population, where in large parts of the country, in fact, even to get water to wash your hands and soap is a luxury. To keep numbers this low is an achievement. And then he was asked that in the past you said, if India is a stock, I will buy in 2014, 2018. Would you still say that? And he said, I'm a sucker for India. And he said, if 1.3 billion people who speak more than 100 languages can stay together like this, then remember it's India's pluralism and democracy, which is a blessing for India and it's a blessing for the entire world. And he used a comparison. He is a fine columnist with a great mind. He said, suppose India turned like Syria. If India turned like Syria, where no community, no ethnicity, no sect can live with the other, then the world will be a different place, because Syria being like this, the world can live with. But if India turned out like that, the world will be a different place. So it's very important for India to keep it all together. And he said that he has concerns because he's been reading stuff that tells him that there are threats to pluralism and democracy in India. It's very important that India keeps it together, because that is India's big strength. Now, these are the larger points, but two things more I will tell you, I'll share with you before I go away. One, how will the world deal with China? So he said Donald Trump's way of dealing with China has been moronic. His word, not mine. Moronic. He said because instead of getting the world together to take on China, the first thing he did was to walk out of Trans-Pacific Partnership. That involved countries like Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Malaysia, big economies. So TPP actually involved 40% of global economies. So he should have got them together and confronted China, and he should have also signed up deals with India, Europe, etc. So got the whole world together against China. On the other hand, he broke Trans-Pacific Partnership and decided to take Xi Jinping on his own, China on his own, which all it did was to incite a greater nationalism in China. So even Xi Jinping's critics had to shut up. But now he says the fact is that globally there is impatience with China. And China sooner or later will have to accept some kind of a global inquiry into where the virus came from and how did it spread so fast and why it took so long for China to share this information with the rest of the world. That's one. And third, he has very quotable lines. So this one I have to mention to you. He said that in last 20 years, I have seen 3.5 pandemics. So first he said was, the first pandemic was 9/11. The second pandemic was 2008 global financial meltdown. The third pandemic is coronavirus. And what is the half? The half, he said, is the continuing climate change, because he said that nature is now hitting back at you and saying that you've been taking too many chances. So see all that, and there's one more thing that he keeps saying all the time, and I must use that line in conclusion. He keeps saying that of all the things I've written in my life, he regrets using only one line a few times. And what is that line? The world will never be the same again. Because, I mean, now I'm decluttering it for you, because the world, human beings are very resilient. They come out of the crisis. So anytime you say the world will never be the same again, you are most likely, in fact, you are certain to be proven wrong. And that is a note of optimism.